Say she wants some Marvin Gaye, some Luther Vandross, a little Anita, but definitely set this party alright. Oh.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Love, Marriage, and Everything in Between. I'm Shan.
I'm DTP.
And today is episode 4. So we made it to the 4th episode. I'm very proud of us. Okay, because we've been consistent.
Absolutely.
Okay.
4 weeks in.
Yeah. So I'm like so proud of us because, we finally have gotten this off the vision board. Finally has stopped talking about it. Let me put my phone on silent. And we're putting things in play. And each week,
We're building.
and for me, I'm getting more comfortable on camera.
Absolutely.
So
I think that's the hardest part, is getting it off the vision board. So it's something new for both of us. We're doing it together. So let's get into it.
Okay, so let's get into it. So it's a lot of talk going on concerning Pinky Cole. She's the owner of Slutty Vegan.
Baltimore native.
Yeah, Baltimore native. She has had a lot of success with her brand, franchising in different states. And she even had a location at Spelman College. But recently, that location closed down. The student board complained that the price point was too high for college students. The college students wanted something more in line with what they can afford. So now they have a place called Twisted Tacos in there. So it's not a Black-owned establishment. So what's your thoughts about that?
For me, I think it was too much excitement around Slutty Vegan closing. So a lot of the Spelman students, and I would love for the Spelman students to, tap in, leave a message in the comments, but a lot of people said the price point was too high.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Vegan and plant-based cuisines are not for everyone. So I feel like if it's something that doesn't really fit your palate, you just don't support it in purchasing from them. But there was one student that was like interviewing the student body and cheering and hey, they're finally closed. And the comments on it were, I just felt like we could have showed up better for Pinky Cole.
I agree. I mean, I saw the celebration. It was actually trending, everywhere, that the students were very happy that, they're no longer going to be at Spelman. And I kind of felt that it was kind of hard to digest for me with students that's in college. You would think they would have a higher intellect and know that, hey, this is something bigger than just a restaurant at college. So we always talk about the wealth gap between white and Black people. So how are we ever going to close the wealth gap if we're not willing to make some sacrifices and support Black-owned businesses? You hear a lot of Black people complain about, Black businesses are too high, or Black businesses, it's too slow, or this is wrong with a Black business, or that is wrong with a Black business. You are an owner, yourself, and you have sometimes customers complaining, when I called, you didn't answer. They don't want to leave a message. They expect you to answer on the first time they call.
Every time, right.
So a lot of Black business, they got to move where though they can't make any mistakes. They can't have any errors. So if that's the case, how will we ever, make the wealth gap smaller if we don't have our the backing of our people? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I think it was dope for Spelman to bring Slutty Vegan to the campus. And I'm sure they have a ton of other options there. And again, if it's not for you, it's not for you. Now, it's one thing if Pinky says, okay, I'm finding my location on the campus of Spelman is not profitable. and I'm leaving. I get that as a business owner. But to actually go to the higher officials of the school and protest, when a lot of college students these days, they're not the college students of the early 2000s in the late 90s, because it was noodles, it was popcorn, it was water. That was your college startup kit. That was your starter kit to be a college student, right?
And pizza.
And pizza.
Yeah.
So to have an option like for those that are, plant-based or vegan, I think it's phenomenal. But the owners of Twisted Taco, I'm sure they're not hurting. Nothing against them. I've never had Twisted Taco. I've never had Slutty Vegan. But I do know this. I can assure you that Pinky has probably been a supporter of other cultures' food, whereas I'm almost positive the owners of Twisted Taco, you're not going to see them in our urban areas purchasing from Black-owned businesses. So as a result, we are feeding their community
And their wealth.
and their wealth, when in turn it's a one-way street. Now it's different if that money's going to their community that's coming back, money's going to their and coming, but it's not happening like that. So while there's a big celebration at Twisted Taco is coming to the campus,
It's there.
how many? Well, it's there now, right? But how many scholarships have they offered to people of our ethnicity? I've heard a lot about
That's a great
Pinky
question.
offering scholarships. She's giving people free business consulting. I know she had a contest almost a year or two ago where you would get an hour on the phone with her to pick her brain. You know how valuable that is for somebody that has already went through the restaurant industry and been successful and grew at a very fast pace, to give you an hour free consultation in how to make your business grow.
Priceless.
That's priceless. So guess what? If she got a burger on there for $20, guess what? It doesn't fit my palate. I got it once, I don't like it. Cool. I just won't go there again.
Yeah. It's bigger. It's bigger. It's bigger than that. And sometimes you just have to make sacrifices for the bigger goal. And also, we're talking about college. I know this wasn't the only option for food. So you have Morehouse, you're in downtown Atlanta,
Man.
you have DoorDash, you have so many options these days, and I just felt like it was unfortunate how it played out, like with the celebration.
To protest her and celebrate her being off campus is crazy.
Yeah,
I mean,
crazy.
that is crazy. Again, I don't know their interactions. I don't know what the service is like. I'm assuming from what I've heard nothing but great things as Slutty Vegan, but everything is not for everybody. But this is something else. I saw an IG post from a content creator, a food blogger in Houston, and they were referencing a lot of Black restaurants. And something you got me doing now was reading the comments. So in reading the comments, there was people that talk about one particular restaurant that I'm not going to name. The parking is too high. The food is high. I think it's very important for people to understand in Black business and being a Black business owner, we are not privy to the same things that our counterparts are. The low interest loans,
And what else? The low interest loan.
The low interest loans.
Also being invoiced. A lot of times we have to pay for things up front.
Correct.
So our inventory is already paid for.
Correct. The scrutiny that we get from our own community. And it's just a difference. So I think there has to be, I'm not going to say empathy, because obviously if you're going into business for yourself, it's a decision you made, that the good comes with the bad as well. Hopefully you have more good days, but we can't move like everyone else. A lot of people are just, a lot of our counterparts are coming out of pocket, for startup of their business, or they have a family member that can give them 75% of what it's going to cost to start the business, and they can get a loan for the 25%. A lot of us don't have those out. We're not on the same playing field. So you have to take those things. Maybe that Black restaurant is a little higher, but are they being invoiced, or are they getting their groceries out of their own pocket at the beginning of their their inventory schedule or whatever, opposed to being invoiced at the end of the month, where you've had 4 weeks of profitability before you paid for what you've already purchased.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. You know, I just feel like right now in our community we have so many black people that are doing well, but we're doing well individually. You know, whereas though before, you know, we had that sense of community, the sense of rallying behind one another. But it's like now, it's like you out here by yourself. It's like, you know, you have somebody that look like you and not rooting for you.
Yeah, and and a great thing about that is that it's not everyone, but it's not enough of us to really change the culture of how we interact with each other. So
Yeah.
we have ran into a lot of people like us that are, you know, for us, it's every day. If we can support a black business, it's not, you know, we're not going on IG, hey, we support, it's the norm unless we
Light
can.
work.
Yeah.
It's light work.
And then there are times in which we supported a black business and it's just not for us. But guess what? I'm not blasting them online. I'm not giving them a review. I'm not going on IG. I won't support them again financially. That's it. That's it. But I'm not going to be a part of taking food out somebody else's mouth, especially somebody to look like me. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, in the comments, because you know I read the comments. This is my thing. I just feel like it's a lot of miserable people out there. If you are happy with yourself and happy with your life, and also you have a busy and productive life, how do you have time to write a negative review under somebody's IG or, you know, business profile?
Especially if you never interacted with that business. That's another thing too. Like the burner accounts gotta stop. Like seriously, it's not that serious. All right, somebody didn't give you an extra sauce, you know, it ain't that serious. Pull them up, pull the manager up, pull the restaurant owner up to the side. Look, I didn't like how you did this. How can we make this right? You know, sometimes the customers are gonna be right. Sometimes the business is gonna be right, but it's a way to handle everything.
Yeah.
It's a way to handle everything.
Yeah, that's crazy. I just know I'm 44. I have never said some wild stuff under somebody's IG page, you know. And you know, I have looked at some IGs and I may have be like, wow, or I may be like, babe, look at this. Or I may, you know, share it with you, like send it like, babe, can you believe this?
Right.
But actually commenting and being negative, it's just like,
it's
ew.
not for us.
Yeah, like yuck.
Yeah. So, you know, the good thing is that I love the news of Pinky Cole. She just bought her company back from the mishap that she may have had, you know, in the earlier months. And I believe that she's gonna come back even strong. I mean, the product speaks for itself. She's a household name now.
Yeah, she's a brand. She's a brand. She has a bubbly personality, and she has this energy of just positivity, and that's something that I love. I love a positive person, you know, because it's so easy to be negative and just to spew negativity. And every time I'm looking at her IG page or I see her on television, she's always smiling. She always has something nice to say, something positive. And even the situation that she's in, you know, having to realign, you know, she's excited about the new chapter, Slutty Vegan 2.0. It's still good energy.
Right.
You know, it's good energy.
And she didn't have to share that information.
No.
You know, that's the beautiful part about it. She didn't have to share that information and she had to do a reorg, but she did it, and she was able to bounce back, and we already know what the Slutty Vegan 2.0 is going to be about. And that's next time we go to Atlanta, we were supposed to have that. I know we're not really doing a process.
We tried. It was just like the line was too long.
But I think we need to stand in line do our due
Yeah.
diligence. We can't talk about what people not doing and we not doing it. So we gotta support her next time we go to
Absolutely.
Atlanta.
And also next time we go to Baltimore, you know, her husband has a spot there, Bar
Yep.
Vegan. She has Slutty Vegan in Baltimore now. So when we, you know, go back home to visit, we definitely, you know, need to pop in.
I agree. Let's do it. We
Let's
got a
do
date.
it. Okay. So some other things I wanted to talk to you about. I wanted to talk and get into marriage and things like that. But before we get into some heavy things, let's talk about that game.
Houston, Florida. Man,
Yeah,
it was good till it wasn't.
I was rooting for Houston, you know, because you know back home we don't have like a team to really root for, you know.
Maryland is always a. Come on,
I
don't do that to Maryland. Like, come on.
Well, I'm saying
Terrapins.
that as far as I mean now with Derek Queen, but before Derek Queen, who was we rooting for? Like
It's just been a tough few years for Maryland, but Maryland is
Yeah.
always, solid.
Houston, Maryland was exciting to watch this year
Absolutely.
for sure with
Juju.
Derek Queen, and Juju. But Houston, it was kind of like a story of wow, people didn't believe that they was going to beat Duke. You know, they beat Duke, and it was just like I was rooting for them. I had tapped in because I usually don't watch men's basketball like that unless it's Oregon.
Anymore.
So
You used to, but
yeah, but now I'm on the women's. But I was tapped in, I was locked in, and I was like, oh my God, this game is so stressful. So what's your thoughts? You think they can run it back next year, or?
well, the thing is, they're not going to catch anybody by surprise next year. So, Houston is definitely in the scouting report heavy for a lot of teams. But I will say this. That win would have been monumental for a lot of the universities that aren't as big as the Dukes, the Florida, because Houston doesn't have the recruiting power like a Duke or a Florida. They don't have a facility. They have nice facilities, but the backing, the alum, it just would have been, that would have been a great look for a lot of the smaller D1 universities. So I'm hoping they can go back. I mean, the coach, his story is remarkable. Almost 14 years ago, they had footage of him recording students and almost begging them to come to the games, to show
For real?
student participation. Yeah, and to see that 12 years later,
Wow.
I think it was in 2012, so 14 years later. 14 years later, for them to be in a national championship, I didn't want it to end with just them making it because it's a great accomplishment for them just making it. I actually wanted them to win, so.
Yeah, me too.
Next year, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, but for me, I mean, what's your thoughts? Like, just that the last two plays, just the fundamentals.
They were tough.
Like,
Nah,
what do you think?
I think Shorty was going for the gusto. They didn't need the three.
Do you want to be the hero?
Yeah, and the first possession of the last two, dribbling through three people, was like, come on, man. If you're not named LeBron James Sr., like, that's not an option. Like, that's not an option in the national championship, less than a minute, if you are not LeBron James Sr. Then the 35-foot three-point shot, when you needed two, is crazy to me. Like, and I think at that point he just buckled up. But, hopefully he bounced back, because this is probably going to be the most talked about blunder in men's college basketball outside of Chris Webber. And that was 20-something years ago.
So the guy that messed up on the last two shots, is he a senior?
I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to turn this conversation over to a topic of marriage. And the reason why I wanted to bring up marriage, because there's just a lot going on, man versus woman, marriage, I'm happy single. It's just a lot of talk going on.
Divorce parties.
Yeah, divorce parties. It's a lot going on. So I'm going to read some stats, and then I'm going to ask you a couple of questions from a male perspective. Okay. So currently, right now, it states that approximately 30% of Black Americans are married, 30%, compared to 48% of the overall U.S. population. Okay, so that's 18% less than the overall U.S. population. Okay, 50% of Black adults have never been married. So half of the Black population haven't never ever been married. Okay. Divorce rate: 24.5% of Black women have been divorced. 22.6% of Black men have been divorced. So those are the numbers. So I know right now, like, we have been married for over 20 years. So we've been married for a long time. And I know a lot of people that did get married when we were married are like not married no more, and they are happy not being married anymore. So it's just like, it's like their second win. You know, it's a lot of people in their 40s that's just outside, where though they spent, you know, their last 15 years, you know, being married, raising kids, and it's like now they have their second win. They outside. So what's your thoughts?
Grandmothers ain't the same. Grandmothers are outside now.
Yeah.
Back in the day, grandmothers was in the homes whipping up them pots, and but I mean, that's a lot of numbers. I mean, I think to make it simple, I feel like we got married in 2004.
Yeah, in 2004.
I feel like right after that, it became like a fad. I feel like a lot of, I don't know, it just seemed like it was a thing. I mean, I don't know.
Spending money was a thing. I think we got married just in time because our marriage was very humble.
Hold on. I think we spent what $5,000?
No, we didn't spend $5,000. It was like 10. But that was very cheap to spend $10,000 because people were spending. Our friends were spending like $40,000, $50,000.
One friend spent $75,000.
Yeah, so it's just like we got in real quick, you know.
And that's probably why, because remember, it seemed like it was a fad, but it was like, I don't know, people was getting money. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know, but like
weddings was like
$35,000, $75,000 for a wedding, but it seemed like it was a fad. So to answer your initial question, why? In my opinion, not that I'm a marriage specialist, they didn't get in it for the right reason. And I don't think marriage is like, I look at things totally different now. Like, a lot of people believe that, all right, because I'm married, like, I'm valid, I'm better, I'm looked at. I feel like, I told a buddy this before, when we were younger. He was like, man, I'm gonna get married like you. And I was like, man, it's not even about me. It's like, I wanted to get married. But because I'm married, I'm no better than you. If you get married and you're not ready to be married, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Because you can get married for the right reasons and still end up on the wrong side of a divorce. But it's really, if it's something that's genuine. That was a lot of numbers. That's a lot of analytics, but it comes down to just one word: love. Do you love somebody enough to spend the rest of your life with them? And that's not for everybody.
Yeah, I don't think it's for everybody. And also, I think right now, in my opinion, I don't think love is enough right now. It's so many distractions. Everything is
that's because y'all don't want the good guys. Y'all want the money, and y'all want the cars, the vacations.
I could flip that the same way. Y'all want the ones with the bodies, and the fake bodies and things like that. So, I mean, we can go two ways, you know. So I just think things are really dicey right now, you know. I just think things are real dicey, but that's why I want to bring it up from a man's perspective, you know, far as marriage. You know, I know that you are married, you are taken, you know, you're off the market, but as a man, you know, what are some of the qualities that you look for in a wife or somebody you want to be your wife?
Honestly,
yeah.
When we first got married, I wanted somebody that, like, I could trip with, right? I wanted somebody that was down for the game, because I was doing a lot of gaming back then, right? PlayStation. And of course, the face card, the body, somebody that looks, very easy on the eyes. But I wanted somebody that I didn't want a trophy. I had my fair share, like trophies, high maintenance, and like, there are some maintenances, that are necessary. But I do not want high maintenance 24/7, 365. I want to vibe out with somebody. And I think most guys look for somebody they can be down with, just not going, nag them, not put unnecessary pressure on them, allow them to be a man, of course, make them better in the ways that they should. But
so what do you mean when you say allow them to be a man? Like, what are some things that you would say women do that doesn't allow?
I think a lot of times women want to build a bear. They want to get a shell of a man and then make him into this dream man that they always had.
But what
and
do
that
you
doesn't
mean about like allow a man to be a man?
So allowing a man to be a man. When the Lakers come on, I'm tapped in, right? We still want to coexist, but you're not going to ask me something like, babe, can you take my car to get a car wash in the middle of the game? I mean, you understand that's my time. And this is just my perspective. I've only been married once. So I'm not an expert, but I do know.
I know that. I'm just saying you are married. I would say that you have a successful marriage. You've been married for over 20 years. Mm-hmm. And, maybe you can shed some light on what has worked for you, what has not worked for you, because, these rates to me aren't good. And this is coming from someone, I never had dreams of being married. I never
want kids. You don't even want kids. Yeah.
That wasn't on my vision board. However, things played out. I fell in love. You were different, and it was just like, yo, I'm gonna spend the rest of my life with you. But that's not something I, dreamed about. Like, oh, I want to get married. And a lot of women, I don't know if this is just placed on them, where so they feel like they're only whole, when they're married or they're someone's wife. I don't know, but that wasn't never placed on me where I felt like I had to be someone's wife. It just worked out that way. So
I think a lot of guys don't grow up saying I want to be married either. And if, in my opinion, I think it's because a lot of times growing up, we don't see, how many marriages did I see growing up? I had my aunt and uncle in New York, my Uncle Jesse, Aunt Becky, Aunt Kate, Uncle Rich. That's 3 marriages that I've seen out of multiple relationships. And I think a lot of us, we don't see it. It's just a lack of understanding. And then at the end of the day, while we have been married for over 20 years, we've had our fair share of issues. Mm-hmm. Parenting, a lot of things, family, a lot of different things. So when you really think about marriage, it's really 2 people becoming one. That's very hard to do. And then this day and time, I think what it took to stay married from 2004 to now is totally different in 2025 and beyond. And I don't know what that consists of, but I know it's different.
To me, I would say not so much, and here's why. You still have your foundational things which you need for a successful marriage. Mm-hmm. Of course, communication, also wanting to be in a committed relationship. You have some people that, whether male or female, they don't want to be in a committed relationship. Also, number 3, sacrifice. You're not going to always have your way, and you're going to have some type of concessions. It has to be a give and take for a successful relationship. And that's any relationship. You can't always get your way. So,
True.
You still have to have those core values. What I will say, in 2025. I will say it's a lot of distractions for both parties. For men, it's easy to cheat, in my opinion. You have so many women are just throwing themselves on men. It's easy. Also for women, you see so much stuff on social media, so much stuff online of somebody's life is glamorous, or they have this and they have that, and it make you wonder, like, this is kind of not the marriage I thought it was going to be. Look how this person is living. Look what this person got. And that could throw off a marriage when, you have your lady wishing she was somebody else's lady because of the things that a guy's providing for their lady. So all of that stuff in the mix can cause a lot of conflict, but I just want to talk about that because when you have a successful marriage, you can accomplish a lot of things. Number one, two is always better than one. Two incomes, two minds, four hands. It's just like, you're always going to win the race when you have two people that's locked in to a common goal. So
let me ask you this. So what's your thoughts on, because I've heard this more often than ever, married couples having separate accounts. So like, let's say you got your account, I got my account, then we got our joint account for bills. What's your thoughts on that?
I don't like that. I don't like it. I don't like it, but I do understand why people, and I'm not going to say females, I'm not going to say males, I'm just going to say people are very shaky these days. They're very shaky. People lie. People are not honest. And people are for self. And that person that may be for self may be the person that you're sleeping next to every night. So you have to do what's best for you. So if you're in that situation where as though you feel like you need to have a side account because things are shaky, this person, is not trustworthy, even though you're with this person, you got to do what's best for you.
Account.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if that's what you need to do, that's what you need to do. I mean, you hear so many stories of women being with men and then they're left with nothing. I actually
You
work
saying
with
the women are left with nothing?
Yes, I actually work with a lady. I wouldn't say I worked with her. I was her IT person. She was a admin, right? She was an admin. She was old as shit. She had to come back to work. Her husband left her for his secretary, and she had to go back to work to support herself. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Right? Also, when DJ was in, when he went to St. Paul's, remember his classmate mother found out her husband was cheating. He was this big time restaurant person. She had to move back home with her mother. He had hid all his money in these side accounts. She didn't have anything.
On these side accounts.
Yeah, he had all his money in these side accounts. She didn't have anything. She had to move back home with her mom. So, you have men that have finances, men that are in power, and they are giving you this glamorous life. They're, you don't have to worry about nothing when you're with them. However, once the relationship is over, the world that you knew is over as well. So, I mean, like situations like that, what type of man you married. Situations like that, yes,
So
put you a little something to the side.
So, prenup, because a lot of people think that's just for celebrities. We're married now, but do you think a prenup for everyday couple is fair? to avoid that. So it's like, okay, all right, cool. We don't want to be in a situation where I'm worse off, you worse off. So let's sign this paper, and if something happens, we go our separate ways. Do you think that's wise to start a marriage like that?
I absolutely think that it's wise to start a relationship like that if you're already established. When me and you got together,
I didn't say me.
No, I'm just saying. I'm just want to paint a picture. When you and I got together, we was on the same playing field. You know, you ain't had much, I ain't had much. However, now, just saying now, for an example, if I was to get remarried, I'm definitely going to have somebody sign a prenup. I don't need you taking my, what I have is what I have. What you have is what you have. We could come together. We could have a good old time. But I don't want to walk away with less, because also, it's a lot of guys right now that are gunning for women money too. They want what's in the woman's 401 account. They want what women have.
So what about the guys that walk away with less because of a divorce?
Well,
that probably happens, and I don't know the numbers on that. You can look that up another time. Mm-hmm. But I'm sure there's more men that walk away from a divorce with less than the women.
Well, I don't have the numbers either, but I will say this from my point of view. I'm a very traditional woman. I'm very traditional, and it really rubs me the wrong way when men ask for alimony. Now,
I ain't talking about alimony.
Well,
you don't see that a lot besides Mary J. husband, but
you do. You do.
Men getting alimony from their wife?
Yes.
I've never heard it. I'm not going to say I've never heard it. I'm talking about take celebrities out of it. I'm talking about everyday married couples.
So everyday married couple, you don't know anybody that was married, a female, and their husband was not in the best financial situation. You don't know anybody that, we're not going to say any names, but they wanted their 401k, wanted their rental property, wanted their items, even though that they had that prior to the marriage. But it works both ways. When you're married, all of those things are collected together. So, the person will have access to it unless, that person was cheating or they, did something in the marriage,
Mm-hmm.
But all of that is up for grabs if you don't have a prenup. So I just feel like, if you did get married when you were young, you don't have much. I mean, it is what it is. But say you're remarrying or, you're older and married and getting married, you need to look at that. You need to cover yourself. You need to cover your kids as well. What if you have kids from a previous marriage and you're going into a new marriage? If something was to happen to you, your new husband is going to get that. That new husband is going to, take precedence over your kids unless you have a will that specifies that, hey, my children are getting X, Y, Z. So all of that stuff is very important. I know it's not sexy to talk about prenups and stuff like that, but I just feel like
I think it's mature.
Yeah. I mean, because you was kind of saying like, oh, well.
No, I think it's a very mature conversation to have for somebody. Either way, they say, look, let's talk about this. I've been hurt before, or this occurred before, and I just want to make sure. And if we solid, we solid. So mm-hmm. I think that's a mature conversation to have. I don't think that's something to run from.
Yeah, I agree with that. So we are going to wrap up so we can stay true to our time. However, do you have any financial nuggets, insurance nuggets, anything that you want to share before we close out?
Ultimately, I just want us to start taking insurance more seriously. Me being an insurance professional, I see a lot of things. I talk a lot about life insurance, but I also think auto insurance, homeowners insurance. I challenge everybody to educate themselves further to know your insurance policies, whether it's auto, whether it's a homeowner's, whether it's a business policy, to know it like you know the facts of your favorite celebrity. Because a lot of times in our community, we lose a lot of money just from not knowing. It's not the agent's fault. It's our fault. It's our obligation to understand what we're paying for. So again, from my experience being an insurance professional, I just challenge everybody to learn more about every piece of insurance you're paying for, not only your health insurance. I mean, it's important. It's important. You save a lot of money being educated on those things opposed to trusting someone, whether it's myself or it's any other agent, knowing for yourself what you need, what best fits your family's needs, and what's going to be the best for your insurance portfolio.
That's good information, Dave. That's really good information. As for me, I would just say, dang, I froze.
What's your nuggets? what's your nuggets for the food industry? I mean, let's talk about that. Let's talk about Mabel's. Something you want your customers to know. Something you want people to know. Let's tag Mabel's. It's our platform. So.
Okay. Yeah. So as for me, I just want to say that I appreciate the Mabel gang. That's what I call my customers that support Mabel's food truck. I just want to say that I really appreciate you guys. You guys have been coming through with the reviews, just the endorsements, and positive feedback. Sometimes it's so hard to come by because negativity travels faster than positivity. So I just want to give a shout out to the Mabel gang. I just appreciate the support. I appreciate the endorsements. I appreciate the referrals. You guys are getting the word out about Mabel's here in Houston, and I'm ecstatic about it. So thank you for that. So
That's it.
yeah, that's it. So until next time, be blessed and be safe, and we'll see you next week, right?
See you next week. That's it.
Say she wants some Marvin Gaye, some Luther Vandross, a little Anita, but definitely set this party alright.